Hey everyone, I'm Byron. I'm again here to testify for Jesus Christ. The title for today is The End Justifies the Means. And this is a series of videos that I'm doing about the revolution that's going on inside the United States. I live in Decatur, Alabama, so I'm speaking specifically of what I can see right here in front of my face. There is a blueprint for the revolution that I found, and right here I want to just read this. It says, "The end justifies the means. In making our plans, we must pay attention not so much to what is good and moral as to what is necessary and profitable." So you have to realize the people that you are dealing with in situations involving this revolution are not concerned about making truthful claims. They're concerned about putting out information that will eventually lead to what is profitable for them. Now, here in my hometown in Decatur, Alabama, there's a case going on that involved a repossession of a truck. And a gentleman was killed during a repossession by police officers. There is a trial scheduled right now for 9th of June, 2025, to determine whether or not that officer will be found guilty for murder. However, on November the 14th, 2023, which is the incident occurred on September 29, 2023. But on November the 14th, 2023, the family received the truck back from the company that repossessed the truck.
After 7 weeks now, Steve Perkins' truck is now back in the possession of the Perkins family.
And then we hear that the financial institution did not charge any fees to the family for getting the truck back.
He tells me all fees to get the truck back were waived to the financial institution.
And then 29 days later, on December the 12th, 2023, the family attorney named Lee Merritt announced a filing of a federal lawsuit. And it's interesting to me that 29 days after the family got the truck back and were not charged any fees for getting it back, which made me think it was a legal repossession, the attorney, Lee Merritt, makes this claim.
Yeah, so the lawsuit names what each individual is being sued for. And so, for example, the financing company, who were not necessarily physically present on the scene when Mr. Perkins was killed, still unlawfully authorized the repossession of his vehicle. And when they knew they had no right to do that and set these things into motion. And so there will be a contractual violation. And when you have a chance to review the lawsuit, you'll see an unlawful debt collection practices claim that obviously would not be applied to other members of the defense.
And now, in a judge's order that was filed electronically on March 31st, 2025, we read this statement. Perkins had leased a white GMC Sierra through Century Automotive Group, but had not made a payment on the vehicle since June of 2023. So if he didn't make a payment July, August, and then September 29th, he was practically 3 months behind on payments. And that's why I bring up this: the end justifies the means. The objective is to have what is called a protracted discontent, continually have something stirred up, regardless of the morals of which you use to keep it stirred up. We find the same things going on inside our city council chamber, where the mayor states one thing.
As said, I will not remain for public comments tonight or in the future, list items that are on the council agenda. However, I want to assure all citizens that my office remains available by appointment to address any concerns or questions, whether from individuals or from citizen groups.
And then after the mayor has stated that, here comes something else.
But Tab still has an office, right?
He does. He's a full-time employee.
Yes, where he does not take meetings. Yeah, where he does not take meetings from, I can't say all citizens, I'm not sure, but I know not from Perkins supporters.
The final thing I'm going to bring up here today is of an incident that occurred at City Hall, and then afterwards it was spoke of at a city council meeting, and how the incident was misrepresented. Here's the mayor telling people politely telling people they're going to have to move a memorial off City Hall property.
This is going to be the kind of stuff that needs to go to a cemetery, someplace where you're grieving, but not here at City Hall. So it's going to need to go off the property of City Hall.
And after they were given a certain amount of time, a police officer came out. He was escorting or protecting a government employee who was going to remove the property that the gentleman did not remove themselves. And then the scene kind of looked like this.
Hey, he's coming.
Now, guys, I'll come up on the steps. I'm going to give him room to work.
Hey, that's our shit. That's
our
shit. That's how you ain't took him. You don't take shit from nobody. You ain't took shit.
All right.
You ain't took shit.
Come up here. You can go.
Man, don't nobody give a take me some motherfucker where I ain't never been. Take me somewhere I ain't never been. Hey, man, fuck him, man.
You come up here. You
Fuck
go
this
to jail.
dude, man.
You come up here. You won't go to jail for
Man,
interfering with
who gives a
government
fuck?
operations.
Now, it's my contention that all parties are acting. There is no legitimate reason for them to be being angry toward each other. I believe it was a skit that was rehearsed prior to being filmed here, and it's being acted out. It's part of the protracted process of squabbling. Protracted discontent continues to wear on the public, continues to allow city officials to make decisions based on this protracted discontent, which is actually fictional. But it's important to understand that memorial was not a taxpayer-funded memorial. That was a memorial that was put up there by people who probably do pay taxes, but the taxpayers' money was not taken to purchase that. However, in the next city council meeting or a city council meeting following this incident, it was referred to as a taxpayer-funded memorial. Listen to this one.
Under Alabama law, obstructing governmental operations is defined as intentionally hindering the administration of law or other governmental functions through intimidation, physical force, interference, and any other unlawful act. If a bystander at a taxpayer-funded memorial is threatened with arrest for obstruction, the justification for such an action would depend on the bystander's behavior. For instance, if the individual is engaging in intimidation...
The point of showing that clip was to show it was recorded as a taxpayer-funded memorial at City Hall chambers, but it wasn't. It was a memorial put up by people who may pay taxes, and probably do, but the taxpayers' money was not used to fund that. These things that I've mentioned here are very common. It happens at length. I've been watching this thing go on since, September timeframe of 2023. The Lord put me on this back 3 months ago, and it was at that particular council meeting that I realized, I use the word collusion. I realized even though you're seeing predominantly black people say things, the white people are assisting them. It is a collusion. It is the first video in this series that I did, part 1. It's called The Revolution, Part 1, Decatur, Alabama. I got a picture of Obama, who the Lord has shown me is the Antichrist. And this is all bringing protracted discontent to eventually bring chaos, to eventually bring Obama back in. But the whole thing that's happening here in Decatur, Alabama, although it may look as if it's not collusion or people acting to achieve the same goal, it is. And eventually I'm going to put down, I did a written comment to the city council member, Jacob Ladder, who was sitting right there, kind of center mass. He's the one that speaks during that comment. If you go to the real thing, but the full length video and it can be found under City of Decatur council meetings or something like that under live, and then you can just find the date and play it yourself. But I called him out on the fact that this was all acting. I realized it was acting on the city steps. It was acting in the City Hall chamber. And the council members are making decisions based on what 3 or 4 people talk about during a meeting. They did this with a report that came out about the police department. The thing that I equate the report that came out to the police department about is that if an officer gives you a traffic ticket for running what he thinks was a stop sign, but at the time that you went through the intersection, the sign wasn't there, you could go to court and say, he called me out for running a stop sign, but there was no stop sign there. It was after I did so that the stop sign was installed. The same thing happens when you're dealing with, if you're a manager and you're trying to deal with employees. First of all, you have to make sure the employees are trained and they are aware of do's and don'ts. You can't just jump off and say, well, you've been doing this wrong, you're fired. It doesn't happen that way, and it sure doesn't happen that way with a personnel board in a city government or a state government. You have to give some warnings. You have to, I'm not saying you couldn't take some type of action, but there should be some type of verbal and written warnings associated before a detrimental action is taken. In the cases that we have here, we've had a long time of protests, police officers, and I'll show this eventually, but police officers getting yelled at by, as many as 7 or 8 people at one time demanding to know information. And then a report was done saying sometimes the officers said things they shouldn't have. And when officers are trying to think clearly with a crowd of people, if you create a circumstance and then you get a reaction, the city government should not be then taking action against a reaction that was intentionally jarred, or whatever you want to say, out of a police officer. So this is all part of a revolution, and it's going to bring in Decatur, it's going to bring in a police chief that was probably recommended by an outside agency connected with Obama. Anyway, I'm going to let it go. This is part 2. I will continue to do videos until I'm stopped. I have been shown by the Lord I will get stopped, but I will not be backing down from, and I just want to say this, man. If I mention the word Jezebel, I am talking about Freemasonry in the church, or Freemasonry itself. In Revelation chapter 2, starting at verse 18, right there's a section for the church of Thyatira. It mentions a Jezebel, and I'm telling you, that is Freemasonry. Her, Jezebel, Freemasonry. And she is an illegitimate authority representing herself through city officials. So anyway, I'll let you go, and I recommend you watch part 1. It talks a little about the collusion between Black Freemasonry, White Freemasonry, or you would say Prince Hall, Scottish Rite, York Rite, also the sororities and fraternities and the spin-offs such as Eastern Stars that are the female side of Freemasonry. So anyway, I'm going to let you go, and we'll play this one as it is. Thanks.